Welcome back to the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast. Today we have Calvin Kattar on the show, the number 6th ranked featherweight in the UFC as of the taping of this podcast. If you're watching in the future, he might be the champion by now. He might be the number 1 contender. That's the reason he's on the podcast today. I wanted him on here because he's a rising star and somebody who I think is going to make a huge impact in the sport. Champion material. I think he could very likely be a champion. And quite frankly, I wanted to get to know him a little bit more. I think that he has an interesting background, a long, extensive background. He's got a lot of experience, but he's just now making his way in that top 5. And so I want to get to know him a little bit more. So let's find out his story. So Calvin, welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, man. You're making a lot of hype, and I wanted you on the show because I honestly, truly believe you're going to be a big star in the division.
Thank you very much, man. Coming from you, that means a lot.
I appreciate it, man. And I'm not going to get too deep in your fights. I know you do a lot of interviews. You've done a lot lately. I actually tried to find your meat truck diaries. I guess I saw a picture on your Instagram, but has it not came out yet or what? Because I searched, I couldn't find it.
No. I think it should come out sometime early next week, I believe. But I go all the way to Cali to do the Brendan Shaw food truck, and
nice.
They served me some Maine lobster.
Okay, little insight.
I'm a New England guy.
Yeah, of course.
Of that, but it was good, man. He's a good guy. It was a good time.
But going to a couple of your fights just really fast, man. The Zabit fight, man, you really had a hard fight, and that was just man. You guys had a rough fight. Did you get fight of the night on that? Was that a fight performance night?
I think we did, but to me that was not fight of the night like that. It aggravates me. It's like I get fight of the night for that one. It was almost like a pity fight of the night for me because I probably flew to Russia for it. I made it happen. It was supposed to be in Boston. I think they just kind of threw me a little something extra. But the knockouts over Ricardo Lamas and then the elbow to Jeremy Stevens putting him out, those ones didn't really get me a bonus. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason. The bonuses are like the rankings, right?
Yeah. I see what you're saying, man. I want to talk about Jeremy too, but I think it was the details about the Zabit fight because, I think you were supposed to lose that fight. The guy had a lot of hype, all the circumstance behind it, like you said, the Russia thing, and you kind of, you had a great fight, man, and you got stronger as the fight went on, and you kind of kind of ruined that hype a little bit, even though he got the win. And not a little bit, you ruined the hype. And I think you proved a lot, made me a fan, as your fight IQ, your fortitude, the way you can adapt, the way you can get stronger throughout the fight. And that was all very respectable, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'm learning more now than I ever have my whole career. It's still, we're still getting better every time, which is crazy. It's awesome. I really feel like I'm the best me I've ever been stepping in there, and most updated version. With Zabit, it was like 3 rounds. We only get 3 rounds as MMA fighters, and you do want to download a little bit. Those are small gloves, but felt them out a little, maybe too long. And in that first round, it was super close. I think a takedown might have stole the round, but it was a lot of flashy stuff with him, and I kind of let him just look like he was busier. But it was the most frustrating thing after the fight when my body's completely healthy and I have an L, and I'm just sitting on that L right now. And then it really put me in a good perspective, though, in hindsight now, going into pre-pandemic mindset, just hungry in November. And then right from there, I was looking for a Jeremy Stevens fight in March. We accepted it in January. He had pulled some weird shit at one of the fights at the Vegas in Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. I'm watching the fights, and he comes over, taps me on the shoulder, asks me to go if I come with him. I followed him over and put my drink down. I thought we were gonna have to do something right there. I don't really like people in my division coming up that never really got talking, touch me on the shoulder, like that. But he walks me up to Sean Shelby, the matchmaker, and he's like,
"What?"
Trying to set up a fight. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, his girl or his wife on the side snaps a picture and tag me. Just you guys gonna gotta do all this cute shit if you want to fight. Trust me, I haven't turned down a name yet. And I'm like, "Am I right, Sean?" And he's like, he was all flustered. It was pretty funny, but I was in that mindset right after that Zabit fight in November, going into 2020. I just remember my goals were to go 3-0. And, much like everybody else, all our plans got put on the back burner beginning of the year. That March fight with Jeremy, he got injured, so it pushed to April. all the April events never went off, due to COVID, and then that got pushed to May. So here I am now, like 6-7 months in and just camp. But that's where you get good, man. And I just buckled down. I didn't skip a beat. And I really made a lot of improvements from then to May when I eventually fought Jeremy, and then parlayed it into the Ige fight shortly after. But yeah, a lot of that mindset was good for me, healthy, I think, especially before the pandemic, to really buckle down. And now I'm one fight away from my goals of going 3-0 by the end of 2020, and it's good to be back on pace.
Yeah, and I think, nothing against Jeremy, but I think that backfired a little bit, that little stunt, because it didn't work out so well in the end.
It's a lot of things, man. Over around here, we like to keep the chips. We find ways to chips on our shoulders, and we keep them all till fight night. I really wanted to express how he made me feel on weigh-ins, when I saw him across from me. He's the one pouting. He's 5 pounds overweight and the first one on the scale. I just didn't understand the mindset. I didn't understand how you're upset.
Did he miss weight for that fight?
Yeah, 5 pounds. And I was just
forgot about that.
And then it's just a lot of those type of little things. Right. And then he was arguing about the percent. I'm only fighting at 30% or not taking. I'm just like, man, you'd act like I showed up overweight or did something wrong the way fault. He's making demands. And I just didn't like the whole vibe, man. And I'm sure I don't think he's a bad guy, man. I just think he went about everything the wrong way, like he would do to anybody else in the division. And I get it, I get it. But it just rubbed me the wrong way coming fight night. And I was glad the way everything kind of worked out. But I had a strong mindset, really put together a strong camp with just very few guys that were able to make it. All my gyms shut down. I was training out my brother's garage mostly, like Rocky style. I got my mom over there like slapping the bag, my brother over there hitting the weights. I'm on the bike. It was fun, man. It was definitely a memory.
That's another fight though. Like I was gonna say, it was a tough first round, and Jeremy's a dog of a fighter, bro. He comes at you, and he's an absolute dog. And that's another fight where I gained a lot of respect for you, man, because you took that onslaught and you took that pressure and you just maintained yourself. And it seemed like your IQ just got better and better. Or your IQ is already what it is, but your strategy got better and better. You're waiting for your shots, and then a beautiful elbow, man, which I want to thank you for, because I love when people use Muay Thai. I happen to have a Muay Thai gym myself. So anytime somebody uses a Muay Thai move to finish a fight, I'm thankful.
I'm trying to come out there, bro. I know it. And everyone thinks I'm just a boxer, so it's good to show them something different, give them something else to think about. And I am constantly evolving. But to your point, I'm trying to come out there and train you, man. That gym looks ridiculous. I love your whole vibe out there with what you did. I'd love to come out there and train. I'm just not sure I'd ever come back. That's the biggest.
It's happened. It's happened, dude. There's been some guy, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley, who's fighting this weekend. He came out there and didn't want to leave, and he came back to do his camp. And the only reason he didn't do his camp for the last fight was because he was going to fight Leon Edwards. Then the coronavirus happened. Then he had to go back to the States, and he couldn't come back to Thailand. But he loves it, man. He loves it out here. And I think he's putting on a great camp with Masvidal. So I think that's going to be a great training partner for him to have, especially during this very limited corona time where you don't have the training partners you need. I think that's a good – he got lucky with that, with having Masvidal there and being able to help him and then get him ready for this fight. He's hungry. He's fired up. I think he's going to do really well. So, yeah, definitely.
We believe in that quality mindset, man. Quality over quantity. It's really about the right training partners.
Yeah.
And we don't think it takes a big gym, man, to get, to become a champion. And I think that's important, and especially being from New England where it's not, very few guys have even made that jump, like Kenny Florian, fighting for the belt. Like, other than that, guys like that did show it was possible, and I think that we're really refining the way that's getting done around here, working together and trying to, springboard some guys to actually make a splash in the UFC,
You're absolutely right. And the thing is, coming from AKA, which is one of the biggest teams who I think has produced some of the most champions and stars that the sport's ever, had. I agree with you, bro. I agree with you, because now that I have AKA Thailand here in Thailand, there's a lot of fighters that come in here and they don't understand the team camaraderie of it's not about having all the great fighters around you. We were lucky that we had a lot of good fighters, but we molded ourselves into good fighters. It wasn't like we started out with the fighters that we became. And it's because of the loyalty. It's because of the training. Iron sharpens iron. I think loyalty is one of the most important things. Here in Thailand, it's so tough because these fighters come in, man, and they just jump from gym to gym to gym, always looking for the greener grass, always looking for like the superstar gym and the superstar training partners. And then they just move around so much. They never build loyalty. They never build a team. And so they don't have those guys to come in on the weekends to help them. They don't have the guys that come in on the holidays to help them. They don't have the guys that sacrifice for them when they need them the most. Like Khabib said when I had Khabib on the podcast, loyalty is so important because you're building a family that you're going to need to depend on when the going gets tough, you know. And it's like that is the most important thing. It's not about having a super gym with 50 top fighters. That's why there's top fighters from gyms with 1 or 2 top fighters, you know, all over the world. So I agree with you. And coming 100%. From a big gym, I agree with you.
And going in there, I don't need a big group of guys when I'm going to battle. I need 3 or 4 guys that I know are gonna put their heart in this year, go out and guys that I trust, man. Pretty much family, like you said, almost closer, man. When you go to war with someone, it's just different.
Yeah.
And I know you understand that, but just showing that there's more than one way to get there too, you know. But I do love that team aspect, even down to like high school wrestling days. You know, you just love that camaraderie within the team, and you know, anything with numbers, man, gets a little diluted. So it's just important to be aware of those things, and not that we're just making it work around here with what we got. And but I would love to go visit and train at some of these. The polished gyms are awesome, man, but you got to have that mindset already when you get in there, because you might get lost in the shuffle, and these guys want to coach themselves almost, right?
It's crazy.
And then it's like, all right, well, if you don't got guys paying attention to your schedule, you might be able to just lapse out on certain things. You're not held as accountable to your schedule. So it's important to have these guys know your weaknesses, and I feel like we're really making big strides around here. So definitely fortunate with that. But we don't got that Thailand weather, as you can see. It's
I see it.
In New England.
I'm wearing your outfit. Obviously, at least we coordinated.
I like it.
I got the message.
I like it.
But my studio is super cold. But it's funny we had this talk, man, because I'm in the same situation right now with fighters, and I have Manel Cap here right now. Manel Cap's having his first UFC fight. He's the Rising champion, and he's about to fight a top 5 UFC fighter. We can't name the fighter yet, but his first UFC fight is going to be a top 5 fighter, and he's preparing with me right now, and we have limited people, but we're getting the best camp ever because we're doing situational training. We're doing the right training. You know, we have the right people to put in certain areas to do these scenarios that he needs, and that's what it's about. You know,
exactly.
And everybody loves each other. Everybody's helping each other, and it's such a great atmosphere. So you're absolutely right about that. But going back to your wrestling really fast, and you grew up in Boston, right? Like you're a Boston boy, obviously.
30 minutes north. I mean, I'm repping the sweater. We got it yesterday for a shoot. We did the Boston Man magazine yesterday. We're gonna be on the cover. Pretty cool. It's a 2-year anniversary. The 1 year anniversary was Edelman. They got they got the McCourty twins on there. Just some cool Boston legends on it. So it's a cool checkpoint for me, my teammate Rob Font, and my coach, Manager Tyson Charter, to do that. So those things are pretty cool. But I'm actually from 30 minutes north of Boston, and from a town called Methuen. And I'm living in Haverhill now, just outside of that, 5-10 minutes from there, town over. But grew up kind of here my whole life. Did high school wrestling. I was 2 weeks late to the freshman team, the tryouts to wrestle. I didn't really know if I wanted to do it. Getting in tights and all that. The singlet was kind of weird to me, but I got a push from my buddy who decided to do it. And I joined the team 2 weeks late, and there was like a tournament that weekend. I just hopped in, and freshmen's only. And I won the damn bracket. I got 4 pins or 3 pins. I got a trophy, a bracket, a gold medal. I'm like, this is the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
And so I stayed wrestling. And then over Christmas break, my buddy actually quit the team, but I stayed all 4 years. And then I felt like everybody I lost to in wrestling, if I could have just punched them in the face, I'd beat these kids up, but they were good at running legs or technically sound, But I was just always scrappy. And then, graduating 6 months later after high school, kind of was a standstill college. It kind of caught me, honestly, by surprise. I didn't have the best grades, and it was tough, man. So I took 6 months off, and then I saw my sister's best friend compete, and I said I want to try that. I missed competing in wrestling back in high school, and I found my sport, man, post high school.
Yeah. So how did that happen? So you were wrestling. You figured out early you'd rather punch these guys. And when did you decide to get into striking based martial arts, and what martial art was it? Like when was that transition?
So wrestling was definitely just first, what I distinctively remember, right, was I remember wrestling practice. I had a strong coach, man. Wrestling practice was tough. You have to be doing these like spin drills, sprints, carrying your buddy over your shoulder, like just crazy shit, man, right? And wrestling's like this, constant smashing. And then I went into this jujitsu, and it was more like going with the flow. It wasn't as smashing, beating up on your body. And then all we were really doing was more so learning submissions. It wasn't so much live rolling, so it wasn't a crazy cardio push. I'm like, I could do this shit, man. I can learn some submissions. This is easier than wrestling. So that's how they set the hook. Like, it wasn't too difficult in the beginning, and I liked it. It was cool. Yeah. And then, as I said, my sister's best friend, Dave George, he had a fight coming up because he's the reason why I started training at the gym. I'm like, I was getting out of shape. I was like 188. And I just had like a surgery on my hand or something. And I was like, damn, I got to get back in shape, get back in the swing of things. I saw him fight, started training with him. And so that wrestling base was always there with him, but I had some scrappiness. And I started training, actually boxing with Gil Reyes out of a Latitude gym around here. It's like a Gold's Gym type deal. Mm-hmm. Really not meant to be where you go find good boxing work. Yeah. But I was pretty fortunate. Gil Reyes is a former professional boxer, fought on ESPN. He's a beast. He's actually out in ATT. He's starting to be affiliated with them, giving some of those guys some handwork. But I was fortunate to get boxing work with him at a Latitude while having somewhat of a wrestling base, and then learning jiu-jitsu. That's how we made it work, 14 years ago. And so that was enough. But then, I realized the kicking game. I'm like, I got to step it up, and made some adjustments. I got into Muay Thai gym, started training at Y Crew in Alston for a while, and then just picking up the game, man, one by one. And but I was trying to explain this is like, especially back in the day, you didn't really have these gyms that had everything, unless it was the big gym, like the ATTs, the Jacksons, and all these things, right? But around here, like you had to find these guys, these coaches. You were the CEO of your business as a fighter, and you had to bring in the resources to get you to become a championship fighter, and that's not easy. We didn't. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft. We didn't get that lucky right off the bat like they did. And so I feel like finally, after a lot of my career, most of that was just putting pieces in place. And right now, I feel like I got a great team around me that I feel confident fighting the best guys in the world and knowing that I could beat any one of them.
Yeah. Don't forget I'm 41, so I didn't just fall at AKA Thailand. Like, buddy, my first pro fight was in '98, so I know exactly what you're talking about, man. When I was coming up in '90,
you know better than I do.
I had in '90. I started fighting MMA in '96. I had 21 amateur fights before I turned pro in '98. So I know exactly what you mean as far as like the training at a boxing gym.
Fights in that 2-year span?
Huh? Yeah, because they were tournaments. I was fighting with Eve Edwards and Travis Luter was in a couple fights I was in. Travis Luter, Eve Edwards, Shannon Rich. And so it was like tournaments, like 3 fights in one day. Vale Tudo, Dungle, mixed rules, pancration. Crazy, some was like open hand to the face, but you could kick to the face, the knee to the face. Some was like no strikes to the face. Some was like everything like underground. Like it was crazy rules. Every weekend it was a different rule. But I know what you mean about going to different gyms, because I was like going to a boxing gym. Then I had to go to a kickboxing gym. Then I had to go to like a BJJ gym. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it was tough, man, before the gyms started, grouping up and MMA became bigger and we started having these super gyms like we have now, obviously.
No, 100%. And you do want to box with the boxers,
Yeah.
Because the other guys don't punch like the boxers.
You're right.
You're not going to kickbox with the boxer. You got to go to those gyms. You got to get the best work you can get. I feel like that's where I try to explain these guys, not to say these guys don't hit hard. Of course they hit hard. Of course I haven't been hit with a well-timed shot in that, whatever, coming into it, this, that. But as far as overall, like what I mean to say is I don't think a lot of these guys know how to punch soundly correctly with their hips, their feet, their hands, like, and the movement. And I think they're punching maybe all arm or, and it's not coming out the cleanest. But like when I fight these boxers, man, or when I box the boxers, those punches come out clean, and it's just different. Yeah. And so I felt like preparing with them for these fights a lot of times with the hands, I'm generally, I feel, I'm all right stepping in there. A lot of times I hype it too much. I think these guys are way better than they are, and I step in there, and I'm just like, oh, all right, But you gotta, that comes with the experience and getting in there. For me, I hadn't had a lot of experience with UFC caliber guys too for a while, so you know, it's something when you're starting out, you know, and up and coming pro, and then you hear usually UFC guys around. You want to see how you stack up, and I know it's what guys do to me now, but I'm cool with it because it's like I want to give them that confidence to show them, like, listen, man, don't buy in all that shit you see on TV. You could do it, you can hang, you know, and I'm living proof of that around here. And the more they get working with me, the more they realize, oh, if I can do this too, this, that. And you just can compare yourself, see where you fall in line, know what you got to work on. But it's nice to have something to compare yourself. And for a while, it was just me and I think Doomsday at Y Crew, but he was a big 170.
Yeah.
So it's tough to find like 45ers, 35ers, things like that, and 55ers. And then, like I said, I'm with Rob Font right now. Kid's, you know, top fighter in the bantamweight division, but he's a big boy out of camp, man. So he still throw around a lot of weight with me, and yeah, it's just a good time, man. I'm really happy for where New England MMA is as a whole right now from where it was a while ago. It's cleaned up a lot, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, when you started getting fights, you fought amateur, right? First, you had like quite a few.
Actually, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. I just jumped right in pro.
Okay.
Back then it was. Now you need like 3 amateur fights in New Hampshire to go pro.
Okay.
Back then it was just like, well, what do you want to do? You want to go amateur pro? I'm like, well, if it's going to be on my record, it's not going to matter if it's an amateur. It's still going to bother me. So let's just go pro with it. Let's start getting paid.
So when you started fighting and you made that transition from wrestling, was UFC and being like a world class fighter, was that your goal? Like, did you do it because you wanted to just do something kind of interesting and fun and test yourself as a fighter? Or were you already thinking like, I want to do this and I want to be like a big fighter, like in the UFC?
No, I never knew I really kind of wanted to do this. And there was a lot of red flags looking back, like even down to when I was a kid, even at wrestling practice. I was a senior and we just tried to develop some type of camaraderie with the guys, you know, just bullshitting. One time we were walking to the mats, we found a set of gloves on the way. And I'm like, oh, all right. You know, we're going to get some boxing matches going. We had lookouts all the way to the coach's office.
Yeah.
So back in high school, man, I was like, and even before that in elementary school, I swear I used to take the bus stop to go watch 2 people fight. I have no ride home. And sometimes that fight didn't even happen. And I'm just stuck out here off some random bus stop in my town. You know, so I love watching fights. I think back, I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I loved watching fights. I loved making the fights. And you know, when I started out, it was just kind of about getting back into shape. I missed the feeling of competing, really, and I just was I took 6 months off college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was at a standstill, kind of crossroads, and then I just found the mats. Like my sister's best friend took the fight, and I was like, oh, it'd be good to get on mats again, you know, and learn some stuff. So that's where it started, and then he had another fight coming up, and then I started doing well with him, and I'm like, well, he's fighting. The promoter asked any of the guys, the coach, like, you want to fight? I'm like, well, yeah, sure. Why just train now and then not compete? So then I started doing well in the fights, and it just kind of that first adrenaline rush, man. Once I took that first fight, it reeled me in, man. That adrenaline, that feeling, it was incredible, and I chase it every time I step in there. And it's kind of it's almost where there's no audience now. You know, I love that crowd, that after a finish or something, that my favorite thing, just to climb the octagon and just take in that energy. Because a lot of times on the way in, I'm just focused. I don't look around. Maybe I try to dab up the snap. I'm not big on the way in, but like I'm focused. So I got something to do. Once I handle that, I take that energy in, and it's special, man. So I feel like it. You know, it's kind of been tough without the audience, but at the same time, man, it is what it is. But it'd be nice to have that. You know, that energy is incredible.
It is, man. It's incredible. I've actually stood on the octagon 2 times, and then I crawled over the octagon and fist bumped Dana, Lorenzo, and Frank 1 time. And both times that I stood on the octagon, I hurt my knee. I fell off. One was in Germany, and one was, I forgot the other one. And I jumped off. Instead of crawling down, like once you're standing on the octagon, you feel like it's like your duty to jump from the top, you know, to the freaking mat. Yeah. And both times I screwed up my knee, and it wasn't a good idea. But the fist bump was because I wanted to. I stood on the ring, and then I crawled up again and fist bumped Dana, Lorenzo, and Frank because I really wanted that knockout bonus, man. I was really kissing ass on that one, dude. And then it worked. Yeah. It worked, dude. I did the fist bump, $60,000, bro. I was like, yeah.
How much?
$60,000. That was Ben Saunders in Germany.
Easy, man. We went down in bonus money since then.
Really? It's
We're
50.
50 now.
Oh man, I got 60, dude. I was happy about that.
I should be going up, man. But hey, I love that. I never hopped out of the cage. You know, I would have done that maybe if I know my family's front row, you know, dap them up real quick, something like that, be cool. But I try to be mindful, man. You get some guy knocked out in the middle of the octagon, we're out here, you know, flipping off cages and stuff.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Oh, yeah, there's been a couple guys do that. Yeah, I've always pushed the limits a little bit. And then Dana would have, like, meetings about guys not getting on the cage and all that. And, yeah, I pushed my luck a little bit too much.
That shit. He loves that shit.
Does.
Don't let him lie to you. He says, don't do this, don't do that, but he wants an outlier. You know it. You know he does.
Hey, I got one of the best pictures I've ever had in my career is after Germany, and I was, like, standing on the cage with both of my hands up, like, standing in Germany. Like, that's still one of my favorite photos of my entire career. So if it was worth it, even if I had got in trouble, it would have been fine by me. But getting back with you real fast, so you started fighting, and then you were winning fights. Like you were winning a bunch of fights. I looked at your thing, and you were like 14 out of 16 wins, and then you took like a 3-year hiatus to do promotion. First of all, what was that about? Why did you stop to do promotion? And number 2, what was that like? Because I've done 2 shows in Thailand, so I can kind of attest that it's not a fun thing to do, man. It's like way more work than it sounds when you first start.
That's a loaded question right there. How you like it? That's a loaded question. But the reason how I got involved, because that's the thing. You don't graduate in high school. I didn't really know I wanted to be a fighter. Let alone a fight promoter. You don't say that leaving high school. You know, it just kind of happens. And the way it worked out for me was that same person, Dave George. When I started training at his gym for 3 fights. The promotion ended up going up on one of them, and they were at a position where they couldn't pay the fighters, and they were interested in selling. So Dave bought the promotion from them. It's called Combat Zone, and we're based out of Manchester, New Hampshire right now, and it's one of the longest running promotions in New England. We've had guys like Kenny Florian, Joe Lasson, just a who's who, all guys from New England fight through. So I take a lot of pride in carrying the torch for Combat Zone, but. At the time, so Dave, the promotion's in a standstill. So Dave goes over, pays all the fighters on the last show, to keep the name of the show good and things, does right by all the fighters. And then he takes over ownership. So I began fighting for Dave. I believe it was like 9 fights I fought for Dave George. I'm 9-0 at Combat Zone, home turf. I love it. I'm proud of it.
Nice.
And I take a lot of pride in fighting for Combat Zone and now taking over ownership. But eventually after Dave... I fought for Dave 9 times, and then I took over ownership when he was, sick of dealing with all the fighters. The way he put it, this is a funny-ass line he gave me before I took over. He goes, it's like 30 brides on their wedding day. The fighters.
That's it.
It just, I get it, man. It's tough.
That's it.
But you got to understand, man, locally, these guys don't have the best management. So you're chasing around usually individual fighters. Some of these guys don't have cell phones. You're trying to get medicals from them. They don't have health. It's a mess. So, that was in the early days. And so Dave was definitely happy to hand that off to me. But at the time, it was simple, man. I was losing 20 to 30 pounds every fight. I was fighting about twice a year. And Dave, I felt like, based off the numbers, was getting paid 4 times more than I was as the athlete, not cutting weight, front row cage side, watching the fights, enjoying them. This is what I'm seeing as a fighter.
Yeah.
And then he's making 4 times every show. So, think of the numbers. I'm like, it's tough going paycheck to paycheck, especially when they're really small and there's only 2 a year. So I wanted something. I believe I was 25, 26, and I wanted something that could, transfer the last 5 to 7 years that I put my life into and continue to train. And so I took over promoting, and I would, line my buddies or other gyms up with fights, and I drop off tickets to their gyms, and I get in some training with them. So like I never let go of fighting completely, but I definitely was put it on the back burner, and I didn't want to be the fighter, broke fighter fighting for money, late into my career, and I just wanted to do something to have more of a stake in the game. So at 25, I believe I got into the ownership. But at that time, I've seen now Rob Font, right? It's funny how this all works out. So Rob and myself were like number 1 and number 2 in New England around the time that I bought the promotion and took the 3-year layoff. And he was at 45 at the time locally, a little heavier. Yeah. So we were going to probably compete against each other. But, Tyson pushing it away, the manager, and he wasn't interested in it. And then when I began promoting, that fight never happened. Rob gets to the UFC. And now I'm watching that, and I'm paying attention to the kid because we were kind of close to scheduled to compete, and he's doing really well. He's getting finishes. Now all of a sudden he's got a fight on the TD Garden card in Boston, and it was a couple months out, and I just got off set for Here Comes the Boom, that movie that Kevin James made out of Boston, and my sister signed me up for it. During that set, I met Tyson, my now manager, right? And then around the same time that Rob had that fight coming up, and I just remember driving down 93 on my way back to the house, and I gave Tyson a call. I'm like, hey, listen, if anybody pulls out of that TD Garden card in Boston, and I'm still down to fight, it's on my bucket list. I never did it. And as naive as that was, because I hadn't competed in 2 years, and they don't really want inactive fighters. So he ends up getting me 2 more fights locally, and then fast forward, 2 years later, and I'm on the card at TD Garden with Rob Font and Kyle Bochniak, another Boston legend. So yeah, it was pretty wild, man. So thankfully Tyson had that vision to keep me and Rob from fighting locally, but also the timing of buying the promotion was worked out to my favor. And now fast forward, Rob's my #1 training partner, and I couldn't have imagined fighting him. And Tyson's my manager. I think I got the A team behind me, but it's all about timing. Like, I couldn't have done that when I first started my career. We all had to go through the shit first.
Yeah.
And I think that we've all been burned a bunch, and think we know a good thing when we get it, and we're happy with our team. And now it's just all about getting in work and less of the drama and bullshit,
Hey, what's up, guys? It's that time, sponsorship time. I'll be as brief as possible, but I gotta thank our sponsor, AKA Thailand, the world's premier luxury training resort here in Phuket, Thailand. And if you want to save 30%, go to akathailand.com right now, and you can book group training at 30% for as long as you want. It never expires, completely transferable, and you can use it anytime that you want. If you have any questions, email info@akathailand.com. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't know what AK Thailand is, here's our video.
What's up, everybody? I am here in Thailand. This is the first time I've ever been here. Been dying to come here for years. Mike Swick, he's one of the big reasons he's been trying to pull me down here. What he built down here, AKA Thailand, is incredible. There's people here from all over the world. You can train mixed martial arts here, jiu-jitsu. They have weightlifting, they have cardio, and obviously they have Muay Thai, boxing, everything. I'm telling you guys, I know everybody wants to go to Thailand because Thailand's so cool, but you can't come to Thailand without coming to AKA Thailand. Come on.
And then you got back into fighting, and then short after that, you got in the UFC. So when you got back into fighting, was that at the point where you were like, I'm going to go ahead and try and pursue this as high as I can? And then the 2-part question, that, and then also what was it that led you into the UFC? Like, what was your big break?
So, yeah, we broke the ice. Tyson has me backdoor sign a management agreement with him. He's like, yeah, I'll pitch your name to the UFC as long as you sign this contract. I'm like, I'll sign it, man. I know you're the best manager in the area, and if I did fight again, I would want you to be my manager. I'm like, just don't promote it, though, until we got a fight book, Like,
right.
So what's he do? Boom, blast it, right? He's like, Kattar signs a Top Game management before I even had a fight. I'm like, fuck. Now I'm backdoored into kind of fighting, Why would I sign with a management after 3 years if I don't plan to fight again?
Right. So
he weaseled me there, but, for good reason. And I took 2 local fights. And I was out in Vegas. It was, I believe, late June for Rob Font's fight. I believe he was fighting Matt Schnell or something, or late replacement. And so I met with the matchmaker, Sean Shelby, and he was at. They were out, and I had the opportunity to meet him. I went up, and I was like, shit. My 14-2 record ain't getting me in, man. Let me go shake some hands, and get out there, see some people. So. He's asking for 1 drink. I'm buying him 2, anything the man needs, and so we were just shooting the shit, chopping it up, and he's telling me that, maybe he'll get me on a Contender Series fight in like a couple months. And I'm like, all right, cool. Thanks. I get back from the trip, and this is after 8 days in Vegas. And I went out like every night just to kind of shake those hands and do that stuff. And it was a little, went a little too hard, but I get back. And like 6, 7 a.m., I think I got a text saying, "Are you willing to fight Andre Fili in 2 weeks in Cali for you got a replacement fight?" So I had, after 8 days in Vegas, I got a 2-week notice opportunity. I was pretty upset, man, to be honest. I'm like, because it's tough to be ready for that moment.
Yeah.
You never know when that big break's gonna come. And 14 years of my life, it's like I was way ready probably every other day of the 14 years.
Yeah.
And this one time, I'm like, all right, man, I got to grab my balls and just show up. You know, it is what it is. And I put together a 2-week camp, which was really get my medicals done and then get ready to leave in a week to go fly there. And, you know, and we made it work, man. I had a good team around me. Rob was, you know, pivotal and like the things he was saying. He had just competed. It was nice. I just made that walk with him. So it kind of broke the ice of the UFC event from the behind the scenes, which was nice, you know, a couple weeks prior to your debut. And that was it. Once I got that fight, I won, and, you know, now we're a contracted UFC fighter. I knew my next fight would be in the UFC, and it just, now I'm able to prepare knowing that, which is a huge advantage, just knowing that when your moment's going to come and trying to have time to prepare for it.
Yeah, and you didn't get an easy fight your second fight either. You got one of my previous podcast guests, Shane Burgos, and I'm pretty sure he was on like I think he was on like a 17-fight win streak or something like that. Crazy, like 16 or 17 fights in a row. So that must have been another one where you were like, damn, man, I'm getting no breaks. I got past the first one, and now I got this guy who's never lost.
It was actually the opposite. I go, oh, man, they're hooking me up now. They gave me a 10-week camp at home.
Oh, nice. So
hell yeah, camp. Let's go. So, like, my mindset was like, all right, 10 weeks, it was nice. I did your 2-week one, but now you're hooking me up with a 10-week. I don't care who it is, you know, but 10 weeks at home, hell yeah. So, and then, you know, post-fight, for it to be a guy like Shane and just understanding, you know, that's like one of those fights, I believe, that you don't realize how big of a fight it is, because we're both kind of just getting going. In the UFC, he was 3-0 at the time. I was 1-0, but I think fast forward from now, you'll see, you know, I think we're both going to be climbing the rankings. Shane's a beast, and I love watching the kid compete, man. He's a fun fight. He brought it, and we had that place going crazy that night.
Yeah, no, that was another performance bonus, right?
That one was earned, and let me tell you, man, my car, my car was on the last leg, bro. It was 220,000 miles, little Acura TL. I was driving to my last, like one of my last sessions. I was, you know, the snow. I slammed the brakes. The car's sliding. I'm either going into a curb or a telephone pole. I picked the telephone pole, knock off my side mirror. I'm like, well, I can't deal with that. You know, I got like a week before the fight. I'm just driving one freaking side mirror. And I was like, man, I just got a bonus and buy a new ride and just, you know, and just this way I have a comfortable ride to the gym, you know? And so to go out and get that bonus, I'm on my way to get that new car I'm driving. I get freaking pulled over by a state trooper. I'm like, shit, I was almost there. I'm like, I'm going. Thing wasn't even, I don't even know if it was registered, to be honest, inspected. It was a mess.
Man.
He's like, hey, you fought last weekend, right? I'm like, yes.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, he let me go to the thing, and I got a nice bonus there, man, and that came at the right time, because when you get a bonus in your first fight or two, that's like game-changing money in the beginning. You know, I was getting paid like 12 and 12, and then you get 50 on top. It's like,
dude, you're crazy lucky for that, man. Like, because like my first 2 fights were knockouts in 20 seconds and 22 seconds, no knockout bonus. My next 2 fights were both submissions, no submission of the night bonus. Dude, I was before the bonuses, bro. So I made literally 5 and 5 my first 4 fights in the UFC. So like for me, it was like you, like I think I was living on like, I was in San Jose, which, you know, Javier Mendez decided to build AKA in like the most expensive city in America next to like Manhattan. So we were all working like 3 jobs and like trying to survive. So I needed like $3,000 a month to get by or something. So I knew if I won my first UFC fight, that's 10 grand. Then I have 3 more months. And if I win my next fight, I got 3 more months. Then if I win my next fight, I have 3 more months. So I was just fighting to not have to go back to work, dude. And then I won the fights, and then I stayed in the UFC, and then everything is history from there. But
that's when you fight the best.
I know what you mean, man. It was survival for me, bro. no bonuses or nothing.
That's when you fight the best, man. That's what I'm saying. All this shit, like that's when I'm at my best. You know, these setbacks are just. I just fuel for the takeoff, man. You got to have that mindset, because life will keep kicking your ass.
You got to just pick yourself up and go.
That bounce back, yeah, you're toast, man. Forget it, you know. Watch when that well runs dry. You know, you got to feed off that. And I think that's where great things happen. I try to, even after like the Jeremy fight, I was like, man, you better not have that mindset like you just knocked out Jeremy Stevens with an elbow. You better have that mindset like you just lost to Zabit.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm like, man, I'm strong in that. And I think that's what separates the difference, man, is the mindset. Some of these guys, they all talk about it. They're all saying the right things, but really none of that stuff matters, man, if you can't get the job done. The reason why Conor made it famous was because he backed it up.
Yep. And dude, it's good that the road's so hard, man. Every time I got my ass kicked, every time I fell down, every time I stumbled, it's good. And for the people watching the podcast, just understand that, like, that's what makes it honest, and that's what makes it pure, and that's what makes it so good for when guys like you make it to the top 6. You're in the top 10 now in the UFC, because that's why there's so few of you. That's why there's so few of success stories, because it's tough to get there. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to take those lumps, and that's just the price you pay to get there. And now you're arriving. Now you're fighting at the top.
And I love that Diaz shit, man, where he says, I'm a big fan of those guys, man. I trained with them right after my 3rd fight, and they just changed the way I trained when I got back. But he says, you got to do this shit so much. You love the sport so much, you got to do it to the point where you just hate it. You just simply hate it, And it's like, it never been truer when you realize, right? People realize this during the pandemic when all they did was bitch about training. But now everybody wants to train again. They all miss it. It's like, you got to find that missing it mindset when it's right in your face and you could do it 24/7 all day. It's like, it's just a play in your mind, and people kind of get lost in that. It's like, you got to, you can't get distracted over just little things like that. I mean, you got to stay dialed in, focused, and that's where I try to, like you said, everyone's tough when they step in there. I try to make these leaps and bounds mentally and the little details, right? Like, that's where we could set ourselves apart.
Yeah, and now you've been in the UFC, you've won a lot of fights. I think you're ranked like 6th in the world right now, but you obviously have a lot of holdups, above you. So you can only do what you can do. Holloway's about the only free guy you can fight. But so I feel like you're top 6, but yet you're, any day now you can be higher. You're right there at that cusp. Definitely. So how's that journey been? Like, how has it been coming up the way you came up, deciding to be a fighter, getting into the UFC, and then how has your UFC journey been? Like, how has that changed your life, being a UFC fighter and winning all those fights and now being in the top, I guess 6 in the world?
It's been incredible, man. I'm just grateful and for everything. Like you said, the ups, the downs. The downs help you give advice to people going through them, because that's 90% of the people in the world is just going through these things. So if I hadn't been through nothing, who would I be to say something about it? So understanding that those lows, after some of my biggest lows, man, like I should open up more down the line about the things that happen, kind of leading into some of my biggest fights, man. But I just think it digs you deeper. And it's all about how you respond to whatever happens to you. And for me, having that after all that hard work and all that other, the crap going on in life, and then getting a big monumental win and big opportunities on the other side, just shows that no matter what's happening to you, man, you keep your head down, keep working hard. The good things are going to come. You do enough good things every day, eventually one great thing's going to happen. And you just got to believe that, trust the process, keep your head down, and for me, it's just been an incredible experience, because it's been a long road. It's been a long fucking road, and I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah, you're young, man.
Really, I feel like I'm just getting started with these guys, man. It's like I just got my shot. Guys like Jeremy, man, these guys been they're like, oh, he's 33 fights in the UFC. He's been in the game forever. Some of the most fights. I'm like, man, I fought maybe he fought a year or two before I started, but I just never got those shots. Not to disrespect the level of competition he's been against, there's levels to that, but I feel like I'm that caliber fighter. I just was never given my shot, my opportunity, and to have it come now, I'm just happy it came. I'm just happy to have arrived in the UFC, and I'm making my name out here, and I'm earning everything. That's the most important. I want nothing given me. I want to earn everything, and that's all I have is an opportunity to go out there and do that.
Do you have like one or two of your favorite memories or wins that you'll remember forever for certain reasons?
So far, it would be, of course, so they're all in their own right. Like the first one, it's funny, man. My first fight, I was saying 2 weeks notice. I'm like, man, I don't care if I win another fight, just this one.
Yeah.
Just this one. I want the debut. Everyone always talks that shit, the big fish in the small pond, and then you go out, and then you get your wings clipped, No, I want this one. I want these, and then after that, I got that W. I'm like, just this one more in TD Garden in Boston, because there's just take everyone after that. I feel like I keep saying that because this stage never gets smaller, only gets bigger when you win. But that one at the Garden, man, was special. Of course, being Friday night, but having Kyle Bachniak go out, get a W, Rob Font head kick, finish Thomas Almeida, dope, and then I'm like, oh shit, pressure's on me to go, 3-0 New England guys. Let's get it. And then ultra tough opponent like Shane Burgos, tough fight, great fight, great finish, and then just having my whole family there, I felt like it was my true debut, and everybody that had ever been there with my, following me all along had the opportunity to actually see it, because it's something when you see it live in the UFC, the production, and that one was the most special, I would say, in my career. And then after that, I would say probably just Abu Dhabi, because it was cool. Fight Island, different experience, kind of wild, F1 racing, just bizarre,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I know what you mean by that, like that home.
Unfortunately,
Go ahead.
How about yourself? What's your two most memorable moments with fighting?
Well, I want to bag on myself first, because I love to do that. So unlike you and your great moment at the Garden, I had a similar moment where, I became the #1 contender in my first 5 fights. I beat David Loiseau, so I'm on top of the world. Now, mind you, just for the people watching, so that they can understand how this works, I lost a championship fight against Chris Lieben in front of Dana White, sitting front row, which got me on The Ultimate Fighter. So I somehow managed to lose a fight by TKO and then managed to get on The Ultimate Fighter. Crazy. Then I go on The Ultimate Fighter and I lose on The Ultimate Fighter. Somehow managed to get my UFC fight, because they gave everybody a UFC fight, first fight. So off 2 losses, I then go 5-0 in the UFC, become the #1 contender. I beat David Loiseau after he fought Rich Franklin. And I had a choice to fight this guy they called Anderson Silva, who had a couple fights in the UFC at the time. And or I could do what you did, and I could fight in my hometown of Houston. It's the first time the UFC went to Houston, and the big the big arena, and I could fight this guy Yushin Okami. Unlike you, I blew it, and I took the fight with Yushin, and I lost a decision. It was a close fight, came down to the 3rd round, lost a decision, blew my title shot, but I know what you mean, because it still was awesome to fight in front of my hometown crowd and put it out there. So,
yep. And that energy of being counted out, man, that sets you up for that 5-0. That's what I'm saying. That going 0-2,
but
still knowing that you didn't get, and then just a tear 5-0. You got to have that mindset, knowing that at any moment that can happen.
That's a lesson.
I love it. Yeah,
that's a lesson,
awesome,
man. That's a lesson there for sure, man. And so, I always want people to understand that, just because you lose or just because it seems like you're not going to do good, you got to pick yourself up. And I think that was my lesson there, I mean, who would have ever thought I would have went in the UFC and went 5-0 off of losing 2 fights in front of Dana and then losing on the TV show? But you never know, man. You just got to keep going, and things could just happen. But when you quit or you stop, 100% things won't happen. That's the way I look at it. So you got to keep pushing forward. That's
it, man. There's no other option. Then same thing for me, man. It's I did football my freshman year, and I went to every practice except maybe two practices, and I didn't play one game. And then the last game, I wake up with a stiff neck. I couldn't play. But aside from all that, I wanted to quit the team. I was like, it's I don't know, it's good, but but my father's like, listen, no, you don't. If you want to quit, you wait till the season's done, and then you stop playing. But you don't quit mid-season, and you develop that mindset, that character, and that always stuck with me, man. To this day, freshman year when he made that decision and talking through it, and I'm like, no, that makes sense, man. We don't develop that quitting mindset. We cut that out, and I think that's a big learning. I have many moments like that where I picked up, lifelong things, but you don't know in the moment how strong that is, But yeah, definitely for me, just never building off that quitting mentality. And if I sense it, I almost force myself to do double the work for even thinking it.
Yep. That's good, man. That's a good mentality.
Yeah.
That's a good mentality, man. And then, what is this? So what is the talk of, because I just recently heard about this. Obviously, a lot of people are expecting you to fight Max Holloway because it's the 2 available fights, and that's a great fight, and you definitely deserve that opportunity, and will do really well. But what is the talk of the Ultimate Fight? Because I know Dana's bringing back the Ultimate Fighter. Just found out about that, and now there's talk about possibly you being a coach with Holloway. Is that a rumor, or has that been talked about? Or
I mean, I feel like if you throw out enough rumors, shit kind of just happens.
Just go for it, man.
I mean, I'm down. It sounds great. Yeah, I guess I gotta visualize what I want better next. But I just don't. I honestly don't. I should be putting more thought into it. I want it to be a top level guy. I honestly, part of me, sick part of me, just wants to fight all the contenders before I even get the opportunity for a belt. I just want to beat the guys where the work is. Like I want to take all these guys out that are supposed to be next in line. That's the wrong. You want to get that belt, you want to get the right money, all the right things. But the fighter in me just wants to take on the work. But there ain't a tougher fight in the division probably than the Max Holloway. He's arguably still the champ in a lot of people's eyes. So that would be an honor to step in there. And anybody that fights Max Holloway next and gets a W, I'm cool. They got my signature to fight for the belt next.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If that happens to be me, great. If it's one of the other guys, cool. But I love the opportunity to go out and compete against the GOAT in the division, one of them at least, in Max Holloway. And I think Ultimate Fighter would be really cool. I'd love to go out and just kind of show a new group of guys kind of how we do things and what works for us in a training camp. I'd love to be a part of that coaching role, and I think we would kill it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I know it's definitely coming back. I'm trying to find out details myself to see. I want to try to get Dan on here and talk about it because I want to find out myself like what's going on with the bringing back of Ultimate Fighter, man. Obviously, being on season 1, it's like I'm always rooting for it, and it's got to be coming back big, man, or it wouldn't be coming back. So there's got to be some kind of cool stuff in store.
Well, you got to meet a guy like Max Holloway, right? Though the name, because it's meant to build stars, right? Like you become a star after being an Ultimate Fighter. So it's like you want to develop someone, but also maybe have someone drawing in the eye. So I think it's a good fit. You got Max Holloway that'll draw the attention. And then an up-and-coming prospect like myself that maybe, people that haven't heard of me will be able to, see part of my story. And then I think after that Max Holloway fight, there won't be it'd be hard for them not to know who I am.
It'll be interesting to find out what happens there for sure. I know you're young, man, and I know you're focused on fighting and winning championships, but I always ask people, I started getting into business in my UFC career because obviously fighting doesn't last forever. You have to understand that, and revolving revenue is what's going to keep you going for the rest of your life. Do you have anything that you're working on as far as business already? And then what is it that you would like to be doing in, say, 10 years? Like, what's your end game when fighting's over with?
I'm really open, but mainly I do like the promoting. It's a big headache, but if it was my sole focus, which I feel like I really would love to step things up a notch. But right now, we're just trying to throw consistent, good shows. And we're the only promotion in New Hampshire, so it's trying to create a platform to the guys that are in my area to get the opportunity that I have now. Because if I didn't have Combat Zone, I wouldn't even be here. Like if it didn't exist, I wouldn't be here. So I want to kind of keep that alive for the guys and girls. And so promoting would be a big thing for me. I'd like to step it up a bit with that. And then I would be open to some type of commentary in the beginning just to do it. Seemed like it'd be a fun for a while, maybe do some of that, go to the events, not have to cut weight, show up to a fight week. I see Tyson, my manager's schedule and what he does. And I know he deals with a lot of shit, but at the cool parts, he's got a lot of things to be happy about. He's changing lives, getting guys contracts to UFC, things they've been waiting on their whole life. It's a feel good, thing as well. If you have the right mindset, if you're not a shady ass manager like most of these guys. And so I could be into the management. I really want to do the promoting, maybe commentary, and eventually it'd be cool to open up a gym. I just don't think I could be a coach and a fighter at the same time. And I got to work on how we develop that. But right now, I'm really being selfish on seeing my career through and really building my resume, being the best fighter I could be, and then try to get a leg up on that next step when the timing's a little bit better. But being mindful of it now, 100%. You're right to say that. Yeah,
and you seem like just a normal guy. Like you're just a hardworking guy from Boston that wants to fight and be a champion. What is your take on these guys that have like a shtick, that are like characters, like your Henrys and your Colbys and your Sugars and stuff like that? What's your take on that?
It's tough, man. Like I don't hate on really anybody, even the guys that are top 4. Like whatever, man. Just figure your shit out and fucking fight. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really hate on any of these guys, but it's not really authentic to me. You know what I mean? So I try to be real and authentic, and but I get it, man. So they want to do the bullshit. They get sometimes the things that I won't, because I'm not selling out of myself. You know what I mean? I'm not really in that. That's not who I am. So just stay true to who I am, and what I fight for. And I think that's enough motivation for me. And, but if these guys, one of these guys that are acting want to get out of line, I'm happy to reciprocate. I just don't like to lead the dance with the shit talk and all the bullshit, but I definitely don't take any shit, if that's what you're asking too, and that's being authentic.
I have a feeling it wouldn't really bother you. Like if you fought one of these guys and they were doing all this stuff, I just don't think it would bother you. I think you would just go out there and try to beat them up.
Sort of. It'd be hit or miss. It'd be hit or miss. It'd be how I'm feeling that day. A lot of times, it wouldn't really bother me, but certain guys, like maybe it. Like I would have been very cool with doing that with a few guys, but see what happens is when you let that out. So yeah, it's nice everyone gets to see it, but I like to keep them in and just bottle it up, and then I'm ready to just explode on fight night. Like that, I like to keep it. It's all energy, I don't like to let it out. I like to bottle it up, and then come fight night, make these guys all pay for everything they said and done. That's like usually my mindset in there.
What do you think about Sean O'Malley with like his thing going, getting so famous so fast, and then going out there and then having the situation that happened?
I think he's talented, man. The kid's smooth.
He's definitely talented.
Maybe if that would have been a great fight had he got his leg hurt, but that was a legitimate kick that messed up his leg, in my opinion. And then I just don't like the dancing videos after. I think that's kind of like where you lost me a little bit, because now you're just not really making sense to me. But prior to that, yeah, you say all the shit you got to do. It's bold to talk some shit and then go out there and try to back it up. And he's been able to back it up a lot, but it's tough when you're not fighting, maybe the best guys in the world, and you're saying it. So it's like you kind of seem, at best you might come off as a bully, this, that, but as long as you back it up, you can pretty much say or do anything you want, in the UFC. And I think it's like they prefer it that way, But at the end of the day, it all comes down to getting your hand raised, and I do try to keep that Bill Belichick Patriots mindset, on to the next fight, head down. Don't give these guys the locker room material, and but at the same time, I got a lot of, I got a little Boston in me too, and sometimes it comes out, and it's fun, man. These guys, I think they talk a little too much, but hopefully they're getting into half as much training as they are doing talking.
There is something to what you just said, though, because I talked to Cheeto about it. I had Cheeto Vera on the show, and then I had Henry Cejudo on. And, Cheeto obviously landed that kick and caused instability in Sean's leg multiple times before the ankle roll. So it wasn't like he just rolled his ankle. And then I saw a breakdown. I mentioned in my last two podcasts, Stanley MMA did a breakdown on YouTube, and it had like Henry Cejudo on there where he got kicked in the same spot from Demetrius Johnson.
Yes.
And so I had Henry on the show, and I asked him, and he thinks that's the move that's going to kind of change the sport, because getting kicked behind the knee on the calf in that exact spot, he said that it did the same thing to him. It caused instability, and he couldn't put his foot down, and he ultimately rolled his ankle too, and he didn't stop, and he continued on, obviously, but there's something there. I mean, there's a kick there that is below that knee behind the calf that definitely causes some damage and instability in the ankle, and I think that's going to be something that a lot of fighters are going to take note of now.
Definitely, it's the lower calf style kicks too are really tough to kind of check, but there's a ways to deal with everything. It's just you try not to be there to get kicked in the first place. That's easier said than done. But
that's a good
I feel
plan.
like with the Jeremy fight, I checked like all the kicks, all of Jeremy's kicks almost, but I felt like maybe I checked too many. Not that it was adding too much, but you can also check too many. You try not to be there at least a little bit, but. Dealing with kicks, they all kind of threw that at me. I was just a boxer after that, Burgos fight, and then, Moicano with the kicks. But from what I see, these guys moving a lot, and then they're relying on trying to pick at me with the kicks because they don't really want a part of it with the hands, and they're trying to kind of, squeak out W's, which it's all fair game, man. I'm not, it is what it is. You want a good, but you see the way I'm losing and you see the way I'm winning, and eventually I think in the long run, once I tighten up with all these little holes, which I feel like I've done a good job at putting in the work and, addressing the things that, even off wins, addressing things that we could be doing better. And I think eventually it's going to all catch up to these guys, man. That's why we work so hard. But, that was the whole mindset, man. I like those guys. He's an exciting guy to watch. And, yeah, it is fun to hear him, shit talk every now and then. But when it doesn't go your way, you got to be a little, humble in defeat and maybe give a guy his due, the stat. But who knows, man? That's for them to figure out.
Well, lastly, I want to ask you for a couple breakdowns. What is your thoughts on the Khabib Gaethje fight?
badass fight, man. I'm a fan of both. Gaethje's just got that X factor. He can always end the fight at any moment. And then, but Khabib, if you don't end the fight, he's eventually just gonna wear you down and end it himself. So I feel like when you say a fight, you got to say it going one of two ways, right? That's the way you do a fight prediction. In my mind, it's like, well, either Khabib can get past those dangerous strikes and actually land a takedown, or if Gaethje can defend his takedowns, keep it on his feet. We'll have to just see who can implement their game plan the best. And it's an exciting fight, man. A lot on the line, and I couldn't imagine being a guy like Khabib, where we've all got that. Most of us got that loss out of the way, almost in a sense, where it's just like, man, you pick up where you were, you move forward, and it's like it sucks, but you got that moving forward. So you kind of lose the pressure of that one L. But when you're on that Mayweather or Khabib or all these guys are in the undefeated range, it's like every time you step in there, man, it's like that zero is always all on the line.
Yeah.
And, that's a lot of pressure. So it might change the way you fight. You might fight a little safer, right? Or Gaethje's going out there reckless. He don't give a fuck. So he's gonna go
it's a crazy
there.
fight, man.
It's just an interesting style matchup, right? Like the guy that doesn't give a fuck and he's dangerous, or the guy that's very dangerous but he might be a little safer because he's got a lot on the line, man. It's tough.
I've always said I do honestly feel he's my teammate. I'm biased, but I've always felt that Khabib could be the guy, the one MMA fighter that could retire undefeated, fighting the best fighters in the world. But this is the scariest fight for me because this is a man who can end the fight, and if anyone's going to beat Khabib, it's going to be someone like Gaethje, and actually, not even someone like Gaethje, with his wrestling and with his boxing. So it's like it's a scary fight, It's not like I'm gonna be holding my breath during that fight because at any given second, one of those freaking punches can land or four of them, and it could change everything.
Yep. But I will say, Khabib's stand-up, man,
it's good.
It's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. When you look at his earlier fights and some of the shots he was throwing, he definitely had to tighten that up, but he did that. And that's why I think it's almost easier to always teach a wrestler, a guy that's good on the ground, some stand-up, some basics on how to just defend themselves, working their way in a transition from takedowns and things, as opposed to, the stand-up guy trying to teach him just the ground and all that. That's just my thought on it, but depends who's coaching and what basically learn who the athlete is. But generally speaking, I think you teach a guy like Khabib a little stand-up, man, good luck.
Hovs is coach, and Hovs has taught him amazing stand-up. It's actually, it blows my mind how good his stand-up has gotten. But that's Hov and Khabib. I have no say in their strategy. I have no say in their training. But I wouldn't personally go in there with the stand-up strategy, being Khabib and being so good at where he's at. I wouldn't change it up at all. If I was the coach, I would say, Khabib, just go do your thing, bro. Like, go do your thing.
What else do you say to that guy? I don't think anybody should say anything to that guy. Let him do his thing.
Yeah, he doesn't need it.
He's getting it done. I think he could be that one guy too that retires undefeated. I wonder. It's tough, man, because you start playing into all this shit that you shouldn't be asking, but you're kind of curious about is. Say he wins this fight, who's he fighting next? You never will look a guy like Gaethje, man, because Gaethje could be that guy. Yeah. But they're talking about the GSP, and then who else? That would be amazing if you ever fought a GSP and a 30th.
I think either way it would be a good fight. I mean, I think either way, even no matter what happens with him and Gaethje, it would still be a good fight. But yeah, of course, it wouldn't have near the meaning unless he beats Gaethje, and we can't overlook Gaethje, of course. But yeah, I mean, if
maybe you introduce picture you introduce a 65-pound weight class with that. Which way to open up a 65 weight class and a GSP Khabib, right? And then
that's his fear.
It's a big move, man. But I feel for you heavier weights, man. Those are big jumps in those weight classes sometimes. 70, 85, 205. It's up there, man.
Yeah, it's a big one, man. And then I love Stylebender. I love his style. I think he's definitely got some great movement. But, man, Costa is a freaking beast. He is a
I'm excited.
Beast,
I'm really excited.
I mean, I'm having to pick. I mean, I'm not no disrespect to Stylebender here on this one, but I'm having to go with Costa, man. I really think he's going to win this fight and be the next big champ in that division.
Let me ask you something. If he does win that fight, who can you even imagine that would take him out? And who would be the champ? Who's the guy to beat Costa, right? You have to think for a little bit.
I'm glad I fought before, man, because I wouldn't want to fight that dude, and that was in my division. I wouldn't want to fight guys like that, So
crazy, but I mean, Stylebender is the truth, man. The guy's the real deal. He's done what he had to do with everybody.
Yep.
He's real
all respect
precise,
to him for sure.
Clean, smooth. it's like that's the style you got to have to beat a Costa.
Yep.
But almost the other way around. You almost got to be a Costa to beat a Stylebender.
That's why it's going to be interesting.
So they really are each other's kryptonite. It's going to make for an amazing fight. I'm really excited about that one because I got a lot of respect for both guys. I'm really excited for that fight.
Cejudo sold me on him a little bit more because during the podcast, the last one I posted, he mentioned that he went down to Brazil and trained with Costa, and he said he's the hardest training guy he's ever seen. I don't know, but he said he's the hardest training guy he's ever seen. So when you have an Olympic level, Olympic gold medalist saying that somebody's the hardest training person they've ever seen, you have to believe Costa's putting in work. You know what I mean? Like, so, and he's already that big. I know that his striking statistics are actually better. He has more accuracy and more strikes per minute than Stylebender. So, technically, his striking isn't as bad as what people think. They think he's only a big, strong guy. It's not the case. And if he's training as hard as Cejudo's saying, I have to go with him on this one.
Dude, he sounds like the Terminator. I'm going to break his face. I love it, man. I love just that Brazilian Terminator. It's like,
it's crazy. It's going to be a crazy fight, man.
I'm excited. When is that fight? These are all coming up in what, September, right? And then the Gaethje is October, right?
I think it's week after week for the next two, and I think it's my boy Tyron Woodley's going to fight. He's going to fight Colby. Can't wait for that fight. Tyron's been training hard. So I think it's week after week. So I think Tyron's fighting Colby this weekend, and then I think it's going to be it's obviously Michelle fighting this weekend, Tyron fighting next weekend, and then I think it's going to be the Costa fight versus Stylebender the next weekend. I think. I'm not sure where Khabib Gaethje plays into that. It may be a week or two away from then. I don't know.
Hey, shout out to Dana White for keeping us all busy, though.
Yeah,
right?
hell yeah, dude.
Considering where all these other sports are, man, I think we've only, gone up in stock, and that's great, man. What a time to be a UFC fighter in 2020, man. Crazy. But I'm coming out there and visiting you sometime.
I was about to tell you, dude. I was about to ask you.
That was an invite, right?
Yeah, well, I was about to ask you when the borders open up, man, and you have your fight and you get done with your next fight, come out there, man, and you can work some more of those elbows and some knees and dude, we got a huge gym, bro. You're gonna love it. We got the islands, I've seen it, man. Everything
on Instagram. I'm gonna follow up. Yeah, I got more questions for you, like you said, but these ones are for off camera. But definitely got a laundry list of questions for you out there in Thailand. I've never been, man. I'm excited to go, and I just need a gym to get the work in because if I don't, then who knows what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be in the rainforest of Thailand, wherever it is out there, and just never come back.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome, brother. And just let me know as soon as you can. I want to have you back on the show too, man, when you get a fight booked, and we'll catch up and see how your camp is and get an update.
I'm with it. Great talking to you, man. Appreciate the time.
Well, listen, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me. It's been great to get to know you more. I'm obviously a fan. I love watching you fight. Likewise. And I didn't know a lot of these things that we talked about, so it's been a great conversation for me.
Yeah, honestly, man, a better podcast I've done in a while. I like it. Take your time a little more, ask different questions. These are the type of things I like to do, man. Some of the other ones are a little too, just it's not as casual. I like the casualness of it all, man.
Cool, man. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, I'm not bullshitting you. If you want to come out and train with you, man, and you seem like a cool dude, man, I'd definitely be interested in making my way out there and train with you sometime.
100%, buddy. All you gotta do is text me. We'll set it up, and I promise you'll have the time of your life out here, bro.
Shoot me your number on the Skype message, and I'll save it. I'll shoot you a text.
You got it, brother. Take care, man.
All right, good talking, man. Thanks again.
All right, Calvin Kattar. What a great conversation. Man, I was already a fan of this guy, and now I'm a bigger fan, after hearing his story. He seems like such a nice guy. He's paid his dues. He's got a lot of experience. I see him doing big things in the sport, and it was an honor to have this conversation and find out all this stuff that I don't think anyone knows. I think that we tapped into a lot of cool stuff about his past that he hasn't shared before, and I think that's going to be very useful for a lot of you out there that are fans, that follow him, young fighters. I think we kind of touched on everything. So I think it was a very good podcast. I'm very happy with it. All the best to Calvin. I hope I'll bring him back on the show again before his next fight, and definitely hope he comes to Thailand and works on some more of those elbows and picks up some more Muay Thai. The only thing better than him landing those awesome Muay Thai elbows in a fight is if he learned them at AKA Thailand. That would be the only thing better. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you took from it. Hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Subscribe. Hit the bell. That's what my media guys say. Hit the bell. I guess it gives you like a notification so that when the videos come out, you actually can find out somehow on your phone and then watch it and hopefully enjoy it. If you're on the audio platform, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, you can review us there. You can subscribe or follow or whatever they allow you to do. We appreciate the support as always, guys. We're always trying to answer your questions on the definitely the YouTube and the forums. But we greatly appreciate the support. Any critique you have, we'd love to hear. If you want to see certain guests, let us know. We've actually brought guests on the show because of your recommendations, so we do listen to you. We want to get guests that are interesting conversations that we can have and share. So you're the guys that know. I mean, you know what you want. So let us know. And yeah, it's been fun. Thanks, and see you next time.